If you're going to work with loops in C++, you need to know two key words, continue and break. Now, these do roughly the same thing. They interrupt a loop somehow. It's just that break is a lot stronger than continue is. What happens is as your loop is sort of iterating through over and over again, if you encounter a continue statement, then what you're going to do is you're going to skip the rest of the code in that particular iteration, and you're just going to continue on to the next iteration. You're just not going to finish the iteration that you're on, essentially, but the loop goes on. Break, on the other hand, will cause you to exit the loop entirely. You just shut down the loop on the spot. And so to see these in action, let's say that we have a for loop here that starts with this integer I equaling 1. And say we're going to count up to 100. So I is going to be less than or equal to 100. And we're going to increment through the values of I 1 by 1. And then maybe we just have the system count out loud. So we'll print each value of I out to the screen as the loop increments over and over. And so let's say that we go through here and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 100 as expected. So we see this for loop is working. It's counting through every single value and not skipping any of them. Now, if we only wanted to say have the odd values appear out to the screen, we can put this if statement in here. We can say if I modulus 2 equals 0. In other words, if you divide whatever the value of I is at the moment by 2 and you get a remainder of 0, well, then that's an even number. And so say we don't want any even numbers to print out. We only want the odd numbers to print out. At this point, we can put continue in this if statement here. Now, I want to back up for a second and say that this is not the most convenient way to do this. This is not the fastest way to do this. I'm just illustrating a point here in how continue works. And so each time this number I is going to be even, we're just going to continue along. And when we continue along, it's going to skip the rest of the code for this iteration. And the only other code we have is, well, whatever I is being printed out to the screen at the time. But because we're continuing along, every time we reach an even number, all we're going to get out to the screen is odd numbers when this gets skipped here. And so, well, when we run this, that's what you see, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and so forth, all the way up to 99. All of the even numbers were skipped because if the number was even, well, we just continued. We just moved to the next iteration, but the loop still counted on. Now, if we change this continue statement here to a break statement, on the other hand, this means that the first even number that we encounter, we're going to stop the loop entirely. And so you can see that if we start with 1, well, 1 divided by 2, well, that's remainder 1. So this is not true. And so, well, we're going to print 1 out to the screen. But as soon as we encounter an even number, 2, the very next iteration, 2 divided by 2 does give a remainder of 0. And, well, that's going to cause this break statement to execute. And so we're really only going to get 1 printed out to the screen. And when we see this, well, there is our 1. And so you see that the break statement is a lot stronger in its action than the continue statement is. It exits the loop entirely the second it gets a whiff of an even number. Continue, on the other hand, just skips printing it for this iteration because the print statement comes after the continue statement. So that's the difference between the two, but it's really useful and you need to understand it. It's a pretty simple concept. Hopefully this was clear. All right, see ya in the next one.